Welcome to another episode of Life Stories with Marty O'Connor. I'm Marty here in Melbourne, and thank you for joining me, whatever part of the world you're in. And today I have Irish author, her book is The Girl in the Tunnel, and this is Maureen Sullivan. And amazingly, I got to know her over the last week or so. And we're going to be talking today about the Magdalene Laundries, for human rights, education taken away, name changed, treated with no dignity or respect, family rape, which I'm sorry to say, and then a cover up of child trafficking and abuse. Now, Maureen is over in a beautiful part of my county, in County Kildare. So, guys, I'm going to cross over now. I have to give a trigger warning on this, is that some of the subjects that we're going to be talking about is may trigger something. So please be cautious. Also now, Maureen has like her story has reached all over the world, from Ireland and now in Australia, New Zealand, but all over the world with Oprah Winfrey. And on the end of this show, with thank you to Oprah Winfrey Group and credits to them, I'll be playing her interview after my interview that she did a year ago with Oprah. It's an 8-minute long one, and we'll play that at the end. So for now, let's cross over to County Kildare, and we're crossing over to Carlow, and let's speak to the woman herself and let her tell her story. Okay. Maureen, welcome to the show, and thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me, giving me the chance.
Wow, I was just saying on the intro there, what a story you have. And I want to kick it off because I want to give you this time to speak. And I've had the privilege of getting to know you. And by God, we've had some laughs over the last few days.
Yeah, we sure did. You're a very funny man.
Oh,
you uplift people. You have a gift. You uplift people. And that's special.
Oh, thank you kindly. But it's more about you today than now me, is your story, which you heard. So I want you to take this time. We want to go into everything, but I'm going to let you start off. Tell us where you're born and what happened and everything in your life. This is your life story.
Yeah. Well, I was born here in Carlow, in south of Ireland.
Yeah, County Kildare, where I was born to on the Curragh, a beautiful part of Ireland.
Well, we're on the border. Carlow and Kildare is bordering each other. Yeah, I was born here in Carlow, and I had two brothers previous to me. And then my father got sick with TB, and there was no cure for TB in the 50s. And he died. He was only 31 when he died. And my mother was pregnant on me. And my father, he died in February, and I was born in August. And then after some time, my mother remarried. And I think that's when our problems really started. I had a very loving granny. My father's mother was a very beautiful, beautiful, kind woman, and was very poor, had nothing. And with her kindness, she just adored us. We were everything to her. But my problems began, I think, before I was 8. It was physically and mentally abuse of being called Jack Sullivan's bastard. That's what I grew up with. And then when I came to the age, I'm not too sure if it was 8 or 9, because don't forget, we didn't have diaries and everything in them days to write things down.
Yeah.
But he started to sexually.
And you're talking about your stepfather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my mother had remarried, and there was other kids in the family, and she went on to have 10 more children, actually, 10 more, 13 of us all together. Wow. And he started to sexually abuse me. And I didn't say anything about it till I was nearly 12. And it was a nun that was very kind to me, Sister Veronica.
So sorry, what age did he start abusing you?
I think I was about between 8 and 9. I couldn't say for definite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I
Yeah.
couldn't. We'll say about 9. Yeah, say about 9, because I can't be sure of the dates. And we had no way, we didn't even have a calendar in the house. We only knew the days by we're off school on a Saturday. So Granny would be there to take us away on a Friday. So we knew Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. After that, we didn't know. And because they had something significant for us on them dates. So I'd say I was about 9. So Sister Veronica started to notice that I was very withdrawn, not being looked after, not being taken care of, didn't want to speak to people. And I was coming up on 12 when she called me into the office. And of course, she got me speaking. And I was always afraid to tell, because my stepfather always said that if I told anybody, I'd never see my granny again. And to me, my granny meant the world to me, and to my 2 brothers as well. So I didn't say anything. So Sister Veronica got me talking through her black magic chocolate sweets, because I never seen anything like them. As I said, I came from a very poor background.
Yeah.
And I confided in her. And Sister Veronica was very kind and very loving and very caring to me. She always treated me very good. So she called in the priest, because that's what was done in them days. And but anyway, I'll talk about that in a minute. Then she sent up for my mother, and it was decided that the best thing to do was to send me to supposed to be to a school in New Ross in St. Aidan's. And there was a Magdalene Laundry attached to it. Now the next day, a Magdalene Laundry.
Sorry, can I just say, Maureen,
Yeah.
what is, for people all over the world, what is a Magdalene Laundry?
A Magdalene Laundry is an institution where women that are classed as wild, maybe fancying men. There's all different stories attached to it, but it was mostly for wild women, women that had children and was never wanted home again, never let back into their home place, women that probably was raped, maybe women that was following men around or were classed as hussies, and women that were sexually abused in the home was sent there. But anyway, my journey to that laundry, I will never forget. I didn't know it was a laundry. Sister Veronica had given me books. She covered them for me the night before. My mother went and got me a pencil case, and it was the first pencil case I ever had. I never had. We used to take our pencils in a paper bag. Mammy used to keep the paper bags, and we should put our pencils and our pair and our rubbers into the paper bag, because that's how poor we were. And anyway, we drove the whole way. I went off with this laundry man, a man I never met in my life before, but he took me, the lovely man, very friendly, very kind, took me down to the laundry, and 2 nuns was waiting for me when we drove into the yard. They were cruel, no smiling, no welcome. And the laundryman said, I'll never forget it, he says, please be kind to this child. He said, she has never stopped playing, he said, with that pencil case since she got into that van this morning, because on the way down he had to collect laundry. So we were stopping all the time, collecting big baskets and bags of laundry. So the nuns took my books and my pencil case, and I never seen them after that. I said goodbye to the man and I thanked him, and he said goodbye to me, and they took me in around and showed me the laundry. After the show, which I couldn't understand, I couldn't figure out at all why they were showing me the laundry. So I kept saying, where is my class? I want to see my new class. And they wouldn't answer me. And I used to say, excuse me, sister, excuse me. And you see, in Carlow, the presentation nuns and a lot of the nuns are called sisters. But in the Shepherds, it's mother. So they said, we're not sisters here. You call us mother. Now, I couldn't get hold of that in my head at all. I couldn't stand. And I said to them, no, my mother is in Carlow. And they said, you call us mother here. So anyway, I was taken over they gave me something to eat and they gave me a cup of tea. And then I was taken over to St. Aidan's to the industrial school across the corridor. And I was shown no class, just a bed, a big dormitory of where I was going to sleep. That's all I was shown. And then I was taken back down to the laundry, and a man came in and measured me in the Reverend Mother's office, and for me to stand up at the calendar to put in the sheets where I could feed in the sheets. So he made a box for me because I wasn't tall enough, and he made a box for me. And I mean, I was only 12 when I went there. I was 12 age. And in them days, we didn't have television, we didn't have radio. We were very innocent children. And he made the box for me, and I couldn't figure out what this was all about. And when I asked the nun, I said, excuse me, sister, I couldn't get used to mother. It took me some time to get used to it. And she said, I said, why is the man measuring me? And why am I getting a box? And should you ask too many questions? And she said, you will know tomorrow. She said, you'll be working down here tomorrow. So I was taken that evening into the recreation room, and the Magdalene women was there, and I was trying to talk to them. I was going, hello, what's your name? And the nun came down. She said, you do not speak or ask questions. You're not allowed to talk. And one of the women was kind of trying to help me under her voice. She was trying to tell me, we can't speak to each other here. You'll get into trouble. And you're only a child. Where did you come from? And she said, don't let them see you, answer me. And I says, I'm from Carlow. And she said, and why are you here? You know, we could get to say the odd little thing to each other if the nun wasn't looking. So they were teaching me how to make rosary beads. And this was classed as my recreation time. I was told that night, the nun said to me, this will be your recreation time at night. And I said, oh, okay. And then she took me over to the industrial school to sleep. And I slept there with the little girls. But in the morning, they'd be nearly all asleep by the time that I'd go over. And in the morning, I was up out of the bed very early, I'd say 6 o'clock. So the girls would be still sleeping when I left, and they'd take me over the corridor to work in the laundry. And it was so cruel. When I think back how cruel they were to me, I mean, I came there very stressed, very upset, missing my grandmother, and there was no kindness, not one kind word was said to me.
There was and obviously what I'm gathering already, and we're just into the interviews, there was no duty of care to you, was there?
No. It was like, I know this sounds strange, but I look back on it now. At the time, I didn't understand, but it was like, it was answered for me, how I felt. They were making me feel so low, the way they'd look at me, and I couldn't understand that. I just could not make that out at the time. But now, since I've heard, and I was speaking to one of the nuns, and she went through my records, which they weren't supposed to have, by the way. They deny all this, and they redact things that they want to, whatever suits them. And but I know now why, and it's very cruel, and I'll tell you that in a minute. But eventually then, after being sleeping in St. Aidan's, I was taken over to stay with the Magdalenes altogether for full time, not go back over in the evenings at all. And I missed the little girls, even though we weren't allowed to talk to each other. I just said, why am I moving beds and sleeping in a different dormitory? And they said, you'll be here from now on. And I was sleeping with all the old ladies who was in there. Now, they were kind. They were nice people. And we were being watched at night as well. We couldn't even speak at night time. My name was changed. They told me from today on, your name is Frances. It's not Maureen anymore. And I just...
why? Well, why did they do that? Take your identity.
They took because so that you'd never know each other. And I think that how could you prove that you were there as well?
Yeah.
And how could we contact the other women? Because we wouldn't know each other as we grew older, and I grew older. They looked older to me, older women to me. Now, they probably were only about maybe in their 20s, 30s, 40s. There were some of them very old. But I would never know them again because the grey hair, they look different, where things have changed so much over the years. Older women now, we can get our hairs highlighted, we get our hair done. In them days, we didn't. So I would never recognise one of them women. And their names was changed so that we could never find each other. That was the reason behind it, that we would never find each other. And to me, that is very cruel. We worked all day. We'd come over in the morning and we'd either polish a corridor, scrub a corridor, could be one morning. The next morning we'd be on the polishing and we'd have buffers under our feet. That's what they called them, buffers. But there were bits of old blankets all sewed into a square.
And you have to walk, shuffle.
Yes. And bring a great shine up on the floor. And so we do, or then maybe the next morning we'd be going around dusting the doors, washing the doors, cleaning out the rooms. And there was a visiting room, which everyone where was cleaned. There'd be something to do every morning. And then we'd go to Mass, and then we'd come back and we'd have our breakfast. And then we'd start working in the laundry. That would last all day. You'd have a break for your dinner, and you'd have a break then at 5 for your tea. And then it was recreation time. That was making rosary beads. If there was a big order in for rosary beads or iron sweaters. Now, I could
you were basically working, sorry, Maureen, to interrupt. I beg your pardon. It's just for the audiences. So you started you're up at 6:30, you're working at 7.
Yeah.
So you're working a 12-hour shift with no pay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't know, it's hard to think back of it all now. Now, as a lot of people was giving out about the food, I found the food okay.
Yeah, but you came from a poor family, so bad food tasted good to you. Yes. I know myself.
Yeah, it did. It tasted good to me, and a lot of the women complained about it, and I just think they must have come from rich families or something, but to me the food was great. And I love the idea of the bed on my own with the clean sheets. It was lovely, because that's not what I came from. And so them two things was my favourite about it, was the food and the clean bed. The rest of it was just horrendous. You get out maybe once a month for a walk. We didn't know the days. We didn't know what days was except Saturday and Sunday, because Saturday we didn't work in the laundry. We cleaned the church, and then we come back and we might have a little walk outside, up and down, like it was like a prison, up and down, a little walk outside. Then Sunday we went to Mass, and we weren't up as early. We might got a lie in, I think, for about an hour, and we go to Mass. And then after, we cleaned the nuns' quarters, their corridors, their doors, just the outside of their doors, because we weren't allowed to enter into the rooms. and we cleaned the whole corridor and we cleaned down the stairs. And then after, when that was done, we'd have our dinner and we could go out for a walk. And then we'd come back in to recreation time again, to make the rosary beads. It all depends on the orders, and they'd be put into a box with plastic and papers all around them for to wherever they had to go. The nun would put the name on them wherever they had to go. That lasted for 2 years. That cold regime, I'll never forget it. The way they'd look me up and down, it was like if I was the person that committed the crime. I just could not understand how women could be so cruel to other women. That was the part that really confused me. When I think about, even today, when I think about it, at the end of the day, and I always say this, and I know some people don't like me for it, but when them uniforms are taken off, they're women. How could they have been so cruel to a little child that was taken out of her school, taken away from her education, taken away from her grandmother, the one person she adored? My granny was heartbroken, didn't know where I was because they hid everything from her. My stepfather was looked upon like he was a great man to marry my mother. It was just the cruelness and the injustice is just.
I know what you mean by that. I'm not. It shouldn't happen to male or female.
No,
You
it shouldn't.
think that, as you just said there, where you triggered in my head, when I'm just thinking is like a young girl. If you're a woman and they're older, why would you like? Why would you do that? Why would you treat them like that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can't. I just, to this day, I don't get that. I really
No,
don't.
no.
Because someone somewhere must have had some bit of a heart in them. Well, this young girl has been abused.
Yep.
She's here. We need to show her a little bit of love. We need to show her a little bit of compassion. But that didn't happen. I just can't understand it, and I never will. I'll never understand it. Then I was changed to a laundry in Authour, and they lied and said to let me home for a week. Now that is quite strange, and everybody found it very strange that I would go home for a week to a house where I've been abused, where I've told on my stepfather I wouldn't be wanted there again. So you see how they cover up things. They didn't want my story coming out. Now, a solicitor did say it to me, and I regret it now. He just said, well, sorry, I'll go on about Authour, and then I'll come back to that. Then I went to laundry in Authour. I was drove there by a black car, and a man in a black car, I think it was a Morris Austin car. I think it was. That's what I remembered it as. And I found out after the name of it because I wouldn't know the name of cars. And he left me off at Authour. Now, that's under a smaller scale, Authour is. It wasn't as big as New Ross. But there was women working there in the laundry with me, but not as many. And the same regime. You worked in the laundry all day. The only difference there was I used to be allowed out to take the laundry to the hotel in Authour. There was a hotel there, and I used to be allowed with the other girls to take down the basket. But there was a girl over us, to be a senior over us. And we were told, if you talk to anybody or look at anybody, you will not be allowed to take the laundry again. So to get out for them few hours was just fantastic. So we didn't talk to anybody. And we done as we were told. And it wasn't all that far down the road. It was very close. So I was there for, I'd say, over a year. I'm not sure of the time. And then I was sent to the blind school in Dublin.
And what age were you at this time at the blind school?
I left there when I was 16.
Okay.
Before I was just a little before I was 16. I was very lucky to get out of there. I found the blind school lovely. I liked it. I liked the blind school. They were very good. The nuns wasn't, and they were in black. They weren't like the Cream and Good Shepherds in New Ross. They were
Mm.
all dressed in black. And my mother came to visit me. And I was a good bit in there when my mother came to visit me. And the window was open and I was limping. And of course, my mother, being a very good Catholic, didn't want to start having the cup of tea till the nun came in.
Mm.
And because every visit in New Ross was, she only came to see me once, it was supervised. And the visit in Authour was supervised. But the visit in the blind school wasn't. And I loved the blind people. They were just lovely. There was children and there was adults. I was mostly in the adult place. I'd be cleaning their rooms, changing their beds, taking it down to the
And,
laundry.
and and why were you in the blind school if you're not blind?
No, I was transferred there just to work. It
Just
was
to
kind
work. Yeah.
I'd call it as my, so a lot of people call it trafficked. I was being trafficked. She's an abused child. Where we put her now? We can't keep her here forever. We'll send her on somewhere else. So I was trafficked from one place to another. And they'll never change my mind about that. So my mother noticed me limping and she says, "Oh, why are you limping?" And I said, "Because my shoes is too small for me." And she said, "Well, surely, Maureen, you must be getting paid now." And I said, "I'm not. I don't get any pay." And she said, "Oh." And she said, "Well, that nun," she said, "is very rude." She said she never came to sit with us and have a cup of tea. I mean, it's hard to, when I think back on it now, I laugh. I was delighted that she didn't appear. And I said, "Do you know something, Mum? I think if I got a job or something in Carlow, do you think I could come home?" And she said, "Well, you'll have to get things ready out in your granny's. You know he won't want you back to the house again." And I said, "Yeah, I understand that." But she said, "When I'm gone," she said, "you can ask the Reverend Mother and tell her that I said you're to get paid now, that you're old enough and you should be earning money." And I said, "Okay. And can I say that?" And she says, "Yeah, you can say it, but she's be mannerly." So I said, "Okay." And I went down and I asked the Reverend Mother, I said, "My mum said that I should be getting paid now, that I'm old enough." That evening, my cases was packed and I got £5 and I was left to Euston Station. And I was sent home. My mother didn't even know I was coming home. I went up to where I live and there was a lady, one of the neighbours come out and I asked her, I met her because she was coming down the road as I was walking up. And I said, "Would you go up and knock the door and tell my mother that I'm down here?" And she looked at me surprised and she said, "I haven't seen you in a long time." And she says, "Can you get, she says, "Can you not go up yourself?" And I says, "No, Mammy, I'd rather meet her down here." And she kept looking strange at me. And she says, "Well, okay, I'll go up for you." And she went up and my mother came down and she said, "What are you doing home?" And I said, "When I asked was that you said I was to get paid," I says, "that was it. I was thrown out."
Yeah.
And so I had to go out to my grandmother's and I had to sleep on the floor there because my granny her bed was sunk in the middle. And we used to love it when we were children. But now I'm a coming up grown woman, well, nearly grown teenager. And I wouldn't have been able to get into the bed with her because I could have hurt her or she could have hurt me. And we could be lying on top or falling on top of each other. So I made a bed up on the floor. And I got a job. Where do you think? In the laundry in Carlow. It was the only place I could go for a job. And that was my first job that I ever had, was in the laundry in Carlow. And they were very pleased with me. They couldn't get over the way I was able to feed the sheets in and the
So this
pillowcase.
this was a laundry that you actually, not
Got
the
paid.
Magdalene Laundry. This was a
No, no,
laundry.
where you got,
Wow.
yeah, you go in there at, I think we used to start about 8:30, 9, and you finish, you have your dinner break, and then you finish at 5, and you go off home, and you get your wages, and you had your weekends off. You finish on a Friday, I
Wow.
think, yeah, and you finish on,
You
so it was
didn't
my
have to
first,
make rosary beads at the weekend, did
no,
you?
no, no, it was my first job, and I held on to it for a while. It started to bring back flashes to me. And I said, I'm going to try and get out of here. And we went off to England. We got a bit of money together and my brother, and we went to England.
Ah.
Innocent, over on the boat, not thinking about, oh, we better have money for a flat, or we better have money for a house. Where are we going to sleep? Nothing in our heads. Yeah. Anyway, we slept on the streets, had it very rough, very, very rough, until an old Scottish man told me, he said, you shouldn't be sleeping in the park, my dear. He said, you'll get very sick. And I found it very difficult to understand him because of his Scottish accent. And because he was very Scottish, and he was saying, I dinna ken, I dinna ken. And I did not know what the man was talking about. So I said to him, I said, I can't understand you. And he said, you need to go to the Irish Centre, and he had to talk real slow, in Camden Town. And he says, they might help you to get a place. And I says, what's a place? And he says, a room. That's all you'll get here in London. He said, is a room. And I said, oh. I said, that would be lovely. And I said, could my brother come with me? He says, yeah, he can. And he says, go down and ask them. So we went down, found it. Took us half a day to walk there because we'd no money for buses or nothing. So we got there, and they did get us the room, and they paid the first 2 weeks. And they got me a job in the Woolworths in Oxford Street.
Ah.
Yep. But that ended up very sadly, because now I got on lovely with everybody there. I liked everybody. The manager was very fond of me. But I was so run down from not eating and sleeping out, I had creepy crawlies in my hair. And one of the ladies noticed it. And she went to the manager and she said, this woman has creepy crawlies in her hair. And the manager called me and he said, I'm sorry. He said, I have to let you go. And I said, well, can't I get them out? I said, I'll buy you one of them combs. I said, they have them in Ireland. And he says, yeah, they probably have them here too. He said, but I'm sorry. He said, I have to let you go. And he gave me extra wages because he felt sorry for me. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, we'll lose our room. We'll be sleeping on the streets again. So he was a nice man, and it wasn't his fault that he had to let me go. He had people over him. So anyway, I went home not home, but back to my brother where we had a room in King's Cross, and told my brother what had happened. And he said, oh gosh, what are we going to do? And I said, look, maybe something will come up. We'll do the best we can. And went back to the Irish Centre, told them what happened. They gave me stuff to clean my hair and got that all done. And they said I have to start eating better. And I started on the building site with my brother, pretending to be a man. Yeah, put my hair up and under a pea cap. And we spent all night trying to teach he was trying to teach me, and a friend of his was trying to teach me that when I get into the van the following morning, how to say hello. He said, you can't say it in a woman's way, you have to go, hello, oh yeah. And I said, all night we were at it. So I just went down the next morning, and my brother said, oh, we got you an extra hand. That's what they used to call people, an extra hand.
Yeah.
And he said, how, the boss man said, how are you? And I said, oh yeah. And my brother said, you done it very good. Well, we had to survive.
I think that's absolutely, I'm laughing my head off inside here as well. That's fantastic. And you were getting paid, you were doing a job. What kind of work did you do?
Well, I was like pretending to be
Yeah.
great with the shovel, and I was watching the lads. They said, just watch us, what we do. So what they were doing was one guy had one of them electric hammer things that you could hammer out the concrete on the floor.
Yeah,
So what
like
we
it.
would
Yeah,
do, yeah, we could a digger, that was an electric digger.
yeah.
And we come along then and we take up the rubble from that with a shovel and put it into a carrying bin, and then we put it into a skip outside. Yeah. It was, look at, I got used to it. It was hard work for a
I
girl.
was going to say that's pretty tough work.
It was, yeah, yeah.
Did
But look at,
anyone? Did anyone? Just I know the audience are going to be listening to this, or watching this. Did anyone ever spot that you were a woman, or did you
yes,
pull it off?
I pulled it off for about 2 weeks
Yeah.
because the boss man would very rarely come in. He'd bring us to work in the mornings. Some evenings he wouldn't call for us. Some evenings he would, but I'd be in the back of the van. So two guys would be up the front, and I'd be in the back of the van with my brother and some friends and that. But one day he came to the job. Very seldom he'd come to the job. There was a supervisor there, but they all knew and they all covered for me. They were all very good. And I always found in my life, Marty, men were far kinder. That's my experience in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were very good to me and they covered for me. And I'll never forget it. Some of them have passed away now. And but I'll always remember them. And one day we were laughing and joking, and we were not expecting the boss to come in. And of course, I had the cap off, hair down, laughing and joking. And he come in and he looked and he says, I always knew there was something strange about you. And I said, oh, I'm caught. And he says, yeah. He said, look, tell me, he said, what's going on? He said, why have you done this? And why did your brother lie to me? I think my brother got into more trouble than I did. And I look at, this is our situation. I said, we had no money. If I didn't start work, I said, we wouldn't be able to keep the room that we have going. And I said, we have to eat because I said, my health is breaking down. So he said, well, I'm sorry, he said, and I don't like to see that happen to you. He said, but I cannot keep you on. He said, you wouldn't be insured. So in fairness, I understood that. And he was kind. He was kind. He put some extra money in the wage packet and he was kind about it. But then I got so kind of bogged down, and so I was getting so ill that I came home. Nowhere to live again. I had to go out to my grandmother's, stay at my grandmother's. And, you know, to get a job and to live in Carlow, you have to kind of keep yourself, you know, presentable, clean and presentable. And not much money to do that. And then my mother got me a job in the Sacred Heart Home in Carlow, where my father died, actually. It used to be an old TB hospital. And it was a mother and baby home. Way back years ago, that used to put unmarried mothers in there with their children. Strange that I started to work in there. And I worked in there for a little while. And then I went back to England again. This time I didn't return. I just couldn't hack Ireland. So then my mother asked me, I think it was in 1994, would I come home? And I said, well, London is getting rough. I said, I don't know if I want my son, I said, to grow up here. And so she said, well, please, she said, come home. We've missed out on so many years. And she said, we can do things together. We can go off together on days out. I'll be retiring, she said, in 2 years. So I said, okay. So I wanted to get my son out of London anyway, and my daughter, to give them a better chance. But there's a 15-year gap between my children. And so my daughter was okay, but she didn't want to live in London without me. And I wouldn't have wanted her to do that either. I wanted her with me. So she came,
And the father of the children?
yeah, he came home. He had to work in Westmead,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he'd come down to Carlow on the weekends. And
Yeah.
then he had to go back to London because work dried up here. And he went back to London and he died over there.
Oh,
Rest his soul. Yeah, he died over there. And but look at, I got on well. I was very lucky. I landed myself with a good job. It was a FOSS course. I got in on a FOSS course, and then I got a regular job from the FOSS course from a man from Belfast, and he was doing a sun lotion that was very popular. Um, God, I'll think of it now in a minute. This is
and
a
what's the farce called?
sorry.
What's that? The farce? What did you say there?
No, no. The name of the sun lotion was Parasol,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
yeah, very very popular.
Okay.
And it was a sun oil that you could put on you. It didn't burn. Everybody was, he done very well and deserved it. He was a hard worker and wouldn't ask you to do work that he wouldn't do. He was different. There was something about this man, and very much a family man. He had a lovely wife and children. And so, anyway, it started to come up on the television about all the abuse that was going on in industrial schools and everything else. And then I started thinking, well, what about the Magdalene women? Them poor women. We'll never know why they were all there. They never got a chance to tell their stories. And Justice for Magdalene's they started up a campaign to go up against the government because the government was hiding all this stuff. And so I worked with them for a while, and then they stopped. And another guy took over by the name of Stephen O'Riordan. And he'd done a great job. He wouldn't give up. He kept fighting for us. Went back down to New Ross from his, we'd done a documentary. We'd no money because I was only working trying to keep my head over water in Ireland. And I had a little second-hand car, so I was quite happy. And
Yes.
my husband was sending home little bits of money. We'd look after him, my son as well, get him into school and make sure that he was getting educated and things like that. And so we had very little money to make the documentary, but that's the name of it, The Forgotten Maggies. And that's what started the whole Magdalene Laundry to come out and go forward. And we got an apology and we got a small amount of compensation. And whereas the apology was the most important. That's the most
Now,
important thing.
what figures we've seen on it, but you met the new before she was president, Conley. I've seen that photograph with the girls. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that was with my book launch.
Yes,
That's when I met Catherine. Yeah, she's lovely. She's a
yes,
lovely, she's a warm woman. She's
yeah.
lovely. She's really nice. Yeah. And that was at my book launch. Didn't want to do a book. I was going to do one with Mr. O'Riordan, and then I decided not to because there was things going on, and then I wasn't going to bother doing a book. And then people said to me, "You should," because they used to hide me in the tunnel in the Magdalene Laundry in New Ross. If anyone came to visit the laundry. I don't know who they were. To this day, I don't know who they were. But the nun would just say, come on quickly, the men in the suits are coming. And I'd be hid down in the tunnel. I was told to stay there until they come back for me.
That
And
hence is the name of the book, The Girl in
that's,
the Tunnel.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was going to go into that, but you got me
yeah,
first.
yeah. That's why it's called The Girl in the Tunnel. And they'd hide me there. And because we know why now, because I shouldn't have been there. They were covering up me being there. They did not want anybody to see me because I was a child. I was underage. I should not have been in
No.
working at big machines in a laundry. And one day they forgot about me. And I had to go to the toilet, of course. I was embarrassed. It was so, I just got sick after. I think I was 2 days in bed after they allowed me to stay in bed. I was so sick. I was so frightened because I thought, well, am I going to die down here? Have they left me here deliberately? I wasn't sure what was going on, but it wasn't. They just forgot me. But anyway, then we went on the campaign for the Magdalene women. We got there. We done very well. And that was thanks to Mr. Stevenson until things went wrong. I won't go into that because that's for another day maybe. And I'm doing a documentary as well at the moment about it. And I had to just pull out. But my boss, I came into my boss and I said to him, look, I'm going to go up against the church and the state about the injustice was done to me. And I said, here in south of Ireland, if you stand by me or if I'm working for you, I said, you might get your business, it might be harmed. And I said, I don't want to do that to you, because he was a lovely person. And he was very honest and he was a man for justice. And he said, no, tell me what happened. Sit down, tell me what happened. And I told him. So he said, I'm standing by you. So I was kind of shocked. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, I'll stand by you. So he used to give me days off. He would never stop anything out of my wages. He said, well, if you need a day off to go to Dublin, you can have your day off. If you need to go see politicians, have the day off. He was so good. So I was kind of angry that I couldn't get answers to why they were so cruel. That's all I wanted to know. Why did they put me working in a laundry, take my education off of me, change my identity? Why do that? Read my letters. If I wrote a little letter, which wouldn't be much, they would read it. And if they didn't like what was said, it'd be tore up and put in a bin. If letters came in to me from my granny or anybody, the letter, if they didn't like what was in it, would be torn up and put in a bin. We didn't receive letters. So whoever was writing to me probably was saying, are you okay? We're coming to see you, or why are you there, or something. I don't know. But they checked your mail. Everything was checked about you. It was worse than a prison. You got no rights, none whatsoever. So it really started to bother me. And years ago in London, when it came back to me, I went to take my own life. And I started counselling. And that was the first time that I ever spoke about it. The counselling.
And Marion, can I just ask, because you know suicide's a thing close to my heart as such. What triggered for you to say, I'm fed up, I'm going?
I think I read a book, and it was about a woman that was abused. And I should never have picked that book, or maybe I should. I don't know, because I have come forward since. And it was about her being abused and how it was covered up. And excuse me, and how she had suffered so much in her life for speaking out. So I think it triggered with me, and everything came flooding back. And I just couldn't take it. I wasn't able to deal with it. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't. See, once you are targeted once and getting punished for speaking out, always in your head, you think, I better not tell that story. I better keep that to myself. That's going to cause me problems. That's going to cause me trouble. So I kind of kept it to myself, and I just tried to take my own life. If I hadn't, another 10 minutes, the doctor told me, he said, you were dead. Thank God, I'm so grateful that I didn't. And I'm here with my children, and I'm here now to tell my story.
We're all very grateful for that. And I understand when you said there, you just triggered in my head, but you you thought about that, but you kept it away from even your husband. You didn't tell anyone you were thinking
No,
about that. So you
no,
didn't reach out.
no, I didn't. And it was the count. See, in London at that time, that was the 80s. In London at that time,
Mm,
I just can only speak about that year. I don't know before that or after that, but on that year, you weren't allowed out after attempted suicide unless you went for counselling.
mm,
And
mm,
it was the counsellor. She was a Scottish lady, and she knew. And she said, "No, there's more to this." And I'm going, "Oh, no, no, I'll be fine. It won't happen again. I'm fine." No, she said, "It won't be fine. If you're not honest with me," she said, "it's never going to be fine." She said, "I want you to go into your childhood." Oh, well, I said, "There's nothing to tell, really. Just we were very poor. And my dad died." Yeah, and what happened after that? And she was starting out with stories. She spent 2 hours with me. And I'm very grateful for that. And I started to open up to her. She was the only one that I opened up to and trusted after telling the nun in the school here in Carlow. And then I came home and I thought, no, I better not speak about it. And then I thought, no, I am going to talk about this. I need to sit down with the nuns. I need them to tell me, why were they so cruel? Where did the cruelty come out of?
mm, mm.
I just needed to know. And I got kind of bitter towards them, very bitter. And my boss said to me at the time, Arnie Stevenson, he won't mind me mentioning his name, and he said, "You have to let go of that hatred." He said, "I think you need to talk to these nuns. I spoke to them before and they were denying that I was ever even there. I have all the letters to prove it. They denied that I was even there until the truth came out and they had to admit to it. They didn't want to admit that they had a 12-year-old child that was being sexually abused in the home by her stepfather, locked up working for them.
Mm, mm,
So they
mm.
tried to hide it on every corner. And I went to, anyway, my boss wrote a letter and the nun agreed to meet me and he came with me. Now, I never said to my boss or ever said to anybody about the sexual abuse because my mother was still living and she'd had a stroke. And I did not want anyone to put pressure on her or go in to the hospital and say anything to her. And I thought, and I told her and I promised her that I wouldn't be talking out about anything while she was alive. So that's why I never mentioned the sexual abuse to anybody. So my boss, I didn't even say it to him. And you see, the nuns was always telling me, Marty, that, "Oh, we don't have much on you. It's only a small file when you come in. We just register you in and that's it." And I said, "Is that the register you couldn't find?" And she said, "Oh, no, no, it's just these things happen." No, they don't happen. They cover it up. That's the name for it. It's cover up. And but we went down to anyway to meet her, and I just said, "There's one thing about it." My boss said, "Maureen is bothered about something, and maybe if you could answer her, it
Mm.
would give some comfort in life."
Yeah.
And she said, "Yes." She says, "What is it, Maureen?" And I said, "How could your organisation?" I wasn't her. I said, "Your organisation of the nuns in your house be so cruel and so unkind to a young child that was abused." And I didn't say sexual abuse, but she knew. She said, "Oh, but Maureen, you must remember, and Mr. Stevenson, you must remember that Maureen was sexually abused by her stepfather, and we could not have her playing with the other children because she could corrupt their little minds."
Isn't that absolute foolish, the most foolish statement I ever heard?
Yeah. My boss at the time, Mr. Stevenson, was shocked. His mouth dropped.
Mm.
And he said, "What did you say?" And she
Yeah.
says, "Well, have you got children?" He said, "I have two beautiful daughters." And she said, "Well, would you like Maureen playing with your children?" And he looked at her and he said, "But," he said, "are you telling me," he said, "that you punished the child?" and the perpetrator is left go free.
Mm.
Yet, she said, it was wrong. It should never have happened. And she said, Maureen, she said, we are sorry. She said, it should never have happened to you. But it was the way things was done at the time. And I said, and what way by doing things at the time come up, or who came up with the idea to take my identity away from me? Who came up with the idea to take my education away from me? Who came up with the idea to hide me in the tunnel so that nobody would know that I worked in that laundry? That just had a child working in there that was sexually abused. I said, would it not have been that your superiors, whoever trained you, or the God that you believe in, would not say to you, take this little girl in, put your arms around her and say, sorry for what happened to you?
Yes.
Yeah. I said, even if you didn't want me playing with the other children and you were afraid that I would say something, could you not have educated me in a little room on my own and say, we're going to do something special for you, Maureen. We're going to treat you with respect. I said, but no, you treated me like I was the guilty person. Now, not her, but her organisation. I said, just treated me like I was the guilty person. I felt I should be the dirty one. I felt bad about it. I said, most of my life. I said, but I don't feel bad about it anymore. It's not my guilt. It's not my sin. It's my stepfather's.
Correct.
Yeah, it doesn't belong to me.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to carry any duty of care. You were tarnished.
Yeah.
You were
Yes.
tarnished with what happened to you, and you were considered, but they didn't want to give the duty of care. Now,
no.
Tell me just there, what was your best moment in the industrial school? Did you have any? You said about your bed, and you had your, to be able to have that. Did you have any? Were there nuns or that? Were there any good moment?
No, I think once I seen a nun laugh, and her name was Sister John. And she used to take me over the corridor at night over to St. Aidan's for the first few months that I stayed in St. Aidan's. And I said to her, I said, and what's your name? And she said, I'm Mother John. And I said, that's a man's name. And she started to kind of laugh. It was the first time I've seen a nun laugh there. And she started laughing, and she says, oh, she says, you're a funny little girl. I mean, she didn't even know me, but she said, you're a funny little girl. I mean, to me, John, because that was my brother's name, was John.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. And I knew John's, like I had an uncle John. So to me, that was a man's name. And I couldn't get over this nun having, her name was Sister John. So having good memories of it. No, I didn't have good memories. It was just it was just a horrible place. It was horrible. You barely survived in it. And the day I left to go to Authour, I thought I was in heaven sitting in that car and driving out of that yard. But how little did I know I was driving into another yard to do the same work. The same nickname on me, or whatever name that they wanted to call me again, was Francis. That name stayed with me. Even in the blind school, I was called Francis. And it was the same thing, same hard work. The only place that I could say that I had a little bit of happiness in was the blind school. There was no cruelty there. You could have your food in the dining room with the girls that worked there. You could talk to each other. You could speak to the blind people. And they were so clever. I wanted a chocolate sweet one day, and I took it out of the box, and the lady knew it was I that took it. And she said, oh, you took my sweet. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, it's just, they're so fancy. I never seen sweets like them. And she said, That's not the point. If you want one, you ask. You don't take it. And I said, I'm so sorry. I said, you're right. I said, I shouldn't have taken it. And and she said, I said, you don't mind me asking you, how do you know I took it? I said, because you're blind.
Yeah.
And she said, we have senses.
Yep.
She said that you never have.
Yep.
She called it the gifts. And I says, all right. And I found them just very dignified people, very compassionate people. And I can never say I had a cruel day in the blind school. I just liked it. Every day I liked being there.
Now, well, we're going to be running out of time. We've got about 10 minutes left on the show, but I want you to answer to me, have you got any closure, and what are you going to do from here? And if I can throw in a dovetail that to let you do the token, what advice, because I know there's many people out there that have not spoke up, they've gone through similar, and not just there in Australia. We had Lily Arthur on.
Yeah,
we had Marty owns on the
Miriam
show, which you know,
Yeah.
is what advice? But tell me first of all, with those questions, if you can answer the three of them and all in one.
What advice would I give to somebody to speak out?
Correct.
Yeah. Well, I have to be honest here, because I wouldn't like anybody to go down a road that they're not going to be able to deal with either. I have to think of them, because mine has been very tough. Yes. When you speak out about child abuse, if you have other members of the family, it's going to hurt. There's going to be pain. You're going to lose them as a family. You have to be very strong. Go for counselling, get help from people that you can really trust. And you will get the strange thing. And I don't know why, but I find this in life, and maybe it's just me. Every man that I have come across that read my book or knows me or knows of me or is told of me, even my son's friends, young men, will shake my hand and tell me, well done and fair play for speaking out, even though a man was my abuser. I find my suffering is caused by women all my life. Now, I do say it to people, and a lot of women agree with me. They say, yeah, I agree with you, Maureen, you're right. We find the same. My book has been called Lies. All child abusers, all children that has been sexually abused are liars. We make it all up. Now, no man has said that to me yet. Every one of them, and my son's friends and everything, will come in, young men, and shake my hand. Thanks for writing that book. You've helped so many people. And all as I care about is that book will help. If it helps one child, please get help. Talk to somebody that you can trust. Get your word out there. Do not be sexually abused and let the perpetrator away with it, because he'll go on to abuse others. And be strong. You have to keep yourself strong and stay among good people. That's my advice.
And would you agree with me that it's not just you have the sexual abuse, and we're talking about but mental abuse, the way people talk to you, like they put you down, whether it's a male or a female, that can be as hurtful.
Yes.
As my mum used to say, is the tongue can be as hurtful as the fist.
That's correct. Your mum was very right. I'll tell you what I find it, Marty, is soul destroying.
Yes.
Because it's so hard. You're bringing yourself back to that abuse. Your mind goes back there that you're trying to get out of most of your life. I mean, I'm 74 now in August. I'll be 74. I just want to live the rest of my life in peace. I don't want women out there, jealous women that can't write a book of their own, being jealous of other people. It's just sad. And at that, I don't like saying this, but it's the truth. It's a fact of life. It's tough going. It really is tough going. And I'm in a good place. I have two very good children. I have a lovely daughter, lovely son, that stand by me. They're 100% behind me. Without them, I'd be lost. I have very, very close friends, and a lot of my good friends are men.
Yep.
Yep.
But I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head. There is you tell your story, and I've just listened, and I've had the privilege, as I said earlier, getting to know you. But I find you an amazing inspiration for younger people. I know there's a lot of people can't speak out, and there's a lot of people that were in your situation. You weren't the only one in that situation,
Yeah.
but they can't speak out. But by you speaking out, I believe, my personal opinion, it's educational, so people can see the signs and not let it happen and speak out.
Yeah. And I think another thing, Marty, the problem is, and this is sad, that if one survivor gets more attention than the other, they feel hurt. But what I'd like to say to everybody is the attention that I get from my book is all for the wrong reasons. I wish that I had a different childhood. Sorry.
I know, I understand. I know I'm sorry. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I wish it had been better. I wish I didn't have to suffer the way that I suffered in that Magdalene Laundry. And then when you do speak out, you lose all your family because they don't want anybody else knowing about it. I get it to a certain extent. But what about my life? What about what happened to me? And this man was left at home to go on and abuse others.
Well, I suppose the thing is that people should focus on him with the shame and not try to put the shame on you.
Yes, and that's what happens, to put the shame over onto
Correct.
me. Yeah, and in my book, it is where my stepfather used to groom me, and he used to tell his children, now don't believe anything that Maureen tells you. She's a little liar. I mean, I was only a child, and he put this into their minds. And because I have been honest in the book and said it, that's what these abusers do. This is the way they groom you and groom all around you to cover for themselves. That's what a certain woman has called me, Maureen the liar. Now that's very nasty. That's very evil. And it's shameful. It really is shameful, because it's not easy to get out there and talk about what happened to you when you were a child. It
takes a very brave person to be able to talk, because you're going to get back, and like you were on, which we're going to play at the end of the show here and show some photographs, but like people can say what they want, but you were on Oprah Winfrey show. And you did, and we're going to show at the end when we finish the 8-minute interview, which I got permission to show from Oprah Winfrey. You were on that, and people listen to your story, and I know that's American version, or when you do, but people relate to that. There's always people will try put you down for speaking the truth.
Yes, and Marty, there's people wrote in. One woman in particular wrote in an email not to interview me.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Isn't that just, well, fair play to Oprah and her crew. I always loved Oprah. I love her. I think she's a powerful woman.
She's absolutely amazing. And she's had lots of criticism herself. But you know what, Maureen, we're just going to finish off the show. But can I tell you one thing here? And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. And I got to know you. You're an amazing woman. But don't ever let my mum used to say is take in what take in 100% of what someone says and throw out what they don't need. Don't let
Yes.
them
Yeah.
drag you. What you're doing,
Yeah.
and you keep doing what you're doing. And
Thank
I've gained a friend by knowing you, and I think you're an amazing. And they have to read your book. They
Thank you.
have to read your book, The Girl in the Tunnel. And you keep speaking out, and please, don't let anyone tell you any different what you're doing. And I'm
Thank you.
just so honored to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bless you.
All right, we're going to finish up the show now, and thank you to our audience here in Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, all over the world. And please follow Maureen and her book, which is up at the end. And we'll finish up with the 8-minute interview that she done amazingly with very powerful. I believe there was nearly 1 million hits on that for that one on Oprah Winfrey. And what can I say? But thank you so much.
Thank you. Bless you.
Maureen, good night. And thank you to our listeners here. And you can see this audio video comes out. You won't be able to see the end part. And you can watch the video on it. You can go on to all our channels, Life Stories and Moral Injury International, or listen to the audio podcast on Spotify. So for tonight, Maureen, thank you, my friend. You're darling, and I'm throwing you a kiss here from Australia.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your story. You're a very brave woman, a very inspiring woman.
Bless you.
Good night for this one.
Good night.
And I'll see you on the next episode.
Good night.
Cheerio to everyone.
Maureen Sullivan, who was just 12 years old when she was taken from her family and sent to live in one of the laundries. And she wrote about her experience in her memoir called Girl in the Tunnel. These are excerpts from the documentary Ireland's Dirty Laundry, which was produced by New Decade Films. Here's a brief look at Maureen's story. Take a look.
Our father had died. He died just before I was born, and my mother remarried.
In 1964, 12-year-old Maureen Sullivan, who grew up in an impoverished home, says she bravely made a confession to a nun at her school.
She called me into the office, and I told her that my stepfather was hurting me. It was sexual abuse, and I was only a little child. The next day, that there was a man drives the laundry van, and he came to collect me. I was innocent. I thought I was going to go to school. The day I arrived, I knew by the two nuns that came out to greet me, I knew straight away, this is not going to be good. In the morning, you get up early and you clean the corridors. One morning, you might polish them. The next morning, you'd shine them. The next morning, you'd wash them again. And then you go to Mass. Then you come back and you have your breakfast. And then you go on to work in the laundry. If you maybe weren't working quick enough, you'd get a dig of the cross into you. They used to carry these rosary beads around on big, long rosary beads, but the cross was real big on it, and they'd put their two fingers around the cross and they'd just dig it in. There'd be bruises on you for weeks after it.
Maureen says when inspectors came to the laundry, the nuns would hide her in dark tunnels for hours without food or water.
It was just horrific. And you were afraid to talk about it. And the way that the church covered up, nobody cared. I thought I was there for life. And of course it's in your head, am I ever going to get out of here? Is this my life now?
Maureen is zooming in with us today from her home in Carlow, Ireland. Maureen, hi there. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
I know you've read Claire's book. What kind of emotions came up for you when you were reading small things like these?
Yes, a lot of emotions come up, but when you could get deep into it, I liked the way she told the truth about the nuns, the way that they were able to bribe people, the power that they had in Ireland. I think that's the first time that it's ever
really come out that strong.
Really, even with all
Yes.
the stories in the news, because
Yes.
one of the things
Yep.
Claire was sharing with us is that, first of all, this was happening in the 80s, and the last laundry was closed when in 1996, you
I
were
think
saying.
so, yes.
90,
Yes.
96. I mean, this is very, very recent that this was happening. And I hear that you felt so broken from the trauma in your 30s that you even attempted suicide.
I did, yes. Yeah, I was in a very dark place. I think you're trying to survive in your younger life, and you're working and you're trying to survive. And then all of a sudden, then it just hits you. Some stage of your life, if you don't deal with it and try and heal, it will hit you in a big way. And that's what happened with me.
How old were you when you were thinking of killing yourself?
I was in my early 30s, 34,
Early-
35. Yeah.
Early 30s. So, what is the thing that has helped you to heal? First of all, God bless you. I read your book, which is available on Amazon. It's called Girl in the Tunnel. So, those of you who have read small things like these, if you want a true story of what really happened, Maureen's book, Girl in the Tunnel, I just can't imagine the kind of courage and will it takes to be you. You are one strong, powerful woman.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Just one strong, powerful woman. To come through what you did, the assault, abuse, and constant sexual molestation from your stepfather, and your mother knew. And I love that first chapter in Girl in the Tunnel when you say, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? You simply told on him, and by telling on your stepfather, who was constantly sexually assaulting you, you then were sent to the laundries, to an even worse existence.
Yeah. I was punished. And not only that, I think then I think the part that really hurt me is when you try to heal and you try to bring your story out and heal yourself, then they denied. They were really trying to cover my story up, and still are. And that's why I wrote my book. They really want to hide my story. They don't want anybody knowing that that's what they done with an innocent child that went to look for help. That nun approached me and she said, you look pale. You look very disturbed. You're not speaking to anybody. And I opened up and trusted her and told her my story. And I went back to the nuns. I'm very lucky in life in a lot of ways. I met very good people. And the man that I started working for, Ernie Stevenson, he took me down. I said to him, I'm going to bring my story forward. Will I damage your business? And he said, I don't care. He said, I will stand by you. He said, that story is horrific. He said, you have to get the truth out. And when I went to meet that nun, I'll never forget it. I asked her, my boss asked her, why was my name changed? Why was my hair cut? Why was I made a slave of? And why did they hide me and not give me my education? And her words was, I'll never forget. Mr. Stevenson, have you got children? And he said, I do. He said, I have 2 daughters. She said, would you like your children playing with Maureen? And he was shocked. And he said, why? And she said, we couldn't have Maureen playing with the other children. She would corrupt their little minds if they asked her why she was there.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a soiled child. So I was punished the whole way through for his crimes.
I'm so sorry. This is the thing that is so striking, those of you who will read Girl in the Tunnel. Your stepfather was a pure predator because not only was he sexually assaulting you on a regular basis, and everybody in the house knew, certainly your mother knew, and your grandmother knew, but nobody could do anything about it. But he did what a lot of predators do. He started calling you a liar. Maureen is a liar. Maureen is a liar. And he started doing that long before you told, so that when you did tell, nobody would believe you. So even at school, kids would call you Maureen the liar.
Yes.
Your mother started calling you a liar.
Yeah.
I mean,
He brought his children up like that. You see, his own children heard these words, Maureen the liar. He had himself covered in every way. How nasty
Yeah.
and how evil
Yeah.
of a man he was.
Yeah.